So in this lesson today, we're going to do some more factoring. We're going to talk about factoring trinomials today. So by the end of today's lesson, we're going to be able to factor trinomials with a leading coefficient of 1 and with something that is not 1. And we're also going to solve quadratic equations by factoring today. So this is our process. We're always going to look for the GCF first. If it's there, we're going to pull it out. I'm going to talk y'all through the rest of this, multiplying the first and last terms together, factoring them, blah, 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 blah. So we're going to do all this together, okay? So that's what we're going to do first. So we're going to do this with an example, a simple example first, okay? So our first step is going to be to multiply the first and the last terms together. So we're going to multiply 6 times x squared. Then we're going to talk about the factors of 6. So we're going to talk about the factors of 6 first. So we're going to say 1 and 6. 2 and 3. Those are the factors of 6, right? Now we want to ask ourselves which factors of 6, positive 6, equal positive 5. So we're going to add these together because we'll multiply two positive numbers together to get a positive number at the end, right? So if we add these together, obviously this is 7 and this is 5. Well, this is the one we're looking for because that 5 equals that 5, okay? So now we're going to put in parentheses the x's because x times x is x squared, right? So when we don't have a leading coefficient, this is how we're going to do it every time. We're just going to put x and x in both the boxes. Then we're going to put those two factors that we just found up there in the parentheses. So we're going to put the 2 and the 3, and both of these are positive, so we're going to say plus 2 and plus 3. So that is an example without a leading coefficient. Now we're going to do an example with a leading coefficient. So our process is the same starting out. Now again, always remember we should be looking for a GCF. We don't have a GCF here, and I did that on purpose because I want to show you all this process first. So we multiply 6x squared times 4, we get 24x squared. So here again, we want to look at our factors of 24. So we've got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. So now we want to look at, again, all of this is positive, multiplying positive times a positive is a positive. All our terms are positive, so we're going to deal with a positive here. So now we just want to add these together. And we want to see which of these gives us a sum of 11. So again, once again, we're looking at this number right here. So this would be 25. This is 14. This one's 11. This one was 10. Here again, those are our factors because of our 11 right there, okay? So this time we're going to change it up a little bit. So in our parentheses, this time we're going to put the coefficient with the x. So we're going to put the 6 in the x, in the 6 in the x here. And then we're going to put those two terms that we just found, the plus 3 and the plus 8. Now there's another difference here at this point. We are going to see if there's a GCF. And we will factor that out. So the GCF over here is 3. So that would give us 2x plus 1. The GCF here is 2. So we're going to factor that out. That would give us 3x plus 4. Now the way to check this is to basically use the box or the FOIL method and multiply them times each other to make sure you got what our original problem was, if you want to check it. So we're going to work some more problems, keeping in mind our process. Again, multiplying the first and the last, so we get negative 24x squared this time. So we're going to then talk about the factors of 24, and then we're going to deal with this negative. So we got 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6, right? Well, a couple things. One of those has to be negative because when we multiply a negative times a positive, we get a negative, right? So one of these has to be negative. And the way we're going to determine which one is negative is by this. So if that number's negative, then our bigger number is going to be negative. If that number's positive, our bigger number is going to be positive. So in this case, we're going to make all our bigger numbers negative here. And then we're just going to combine those to see when do we get negative 10, okay? So this would be negative 23. This would be negative 10. This would be negative 5. And this would be negative 2. So which one of those gave us the number we were looking for? this one right here. So this time when we do it, we put again our x in both set of parentheses, x and x. This time we're going to put plus 2 and minus 12. Those are the factors. And again, you can check this by doing the box method if you want to double check it. So with number 4, same process that we've been doing before, multiplying first and last. So this is going to be negative 30 x squared, okay? So once again, we're going to look at our factors of 30. So we got 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. Okay, this time, notice, we have a positive 7. Okay, so this time it means that our bigger term is going to be positive and our smaller term is going to be negative. So I'm going to put a minus out front in front of all these smaller ones, and I'm going to put plus here. So now again, we're trying to figure out when do we get positive 7. So here we would get 29. Here we would get 13. Here we would get 7. Now we could keep going, right? But we got our answer right there. So those are going to be our factors. Now remember, this time we're going to bring down that coefficient with the x. So we're going to do 2x and 2x because there's a coefficient out in front there. And the factors we're looking at are negative 3 and positive 10. Well, I want y'all to notice that there is no GCF in 2x minus 3, so we know that that's going to be one of our factors. But this one over here does have a GCF. It has a GCF of 2. So when we simplify this one, we're going to get x plus 5. So our two factors here are going to be 2x minus 3 and x plus 5. So we practiced a couple that didn't have GCFs first to get the process down. Now these two are going to have GCFs. So we want to factor that out first. So I noticed that 2 is a factor of all those numbers. So I'm going to factor that out first. Then we're going to do our process just like we were doing before. We're going to multiply the first and the last. So that's going to give us 15x squared, right? Then we're going to look at the factors of 15. 1 and 15. And 3 and 5. Everything's positive, so we know we're going to add these. And we could see right here that this is our factor, right? So here again, we're going to leave our 2 out front. We're going to create our sets of parentheses. We're going to put x here and x here. And we're going to put our two factors, plus 3 and plus 5. Okay, the next one. This one's a little different, y'all, because I noticed that an m is in all of them, and I'm pretty sure that all of them have a factor of 2 as well. So I'm going to factor out the 2m first. That's going to give me 9m to the 4th minus 24m squared plus 16. Okay, so here again, we're going to multiply the first and last terms. So we get 144m to the 4th. Now, as before, when we put an m and an m, this time we're going to put an m to the 2nd and an m to the 2nd, okay? So, and notice that the middle term is negative. So when we start thinking about factors here, obviously if the last term is positive, if this is positive and the middle term is negative, then both our terms are going to have to be negative. So I'm going to still bring down this 2m right here. And I'm going to put 9m squared here. And I'm going to put 9m squared here. Just bringing down the coefficient with the m squareds and the m squareds, okay? So now we're looking at what are the factors of 144 when added together that give a positive 144 that when added together give us a negative 24. Well, hopefully all of y'all know this one. We're going to do negative 12 and negative 12, right? Because that's going to be negative 24. Okay, that's the factors we're looking for, okay? I just know that 12 times 12 is 144 and negative 12 plus negative 12 is negative 24. So I'm putting negative 24 here and negative 24 here. So again, we're looking for a GCF here. There's a GCF of 3 and 3, right? So this is going to be 2m and this is going to be 3m squared minus 8. And 3m squared minus 8. Now, there's another way that we could write this because we have the same expression twice. We could say 2m times 3m squared minus 8 squared. Okay. So now I'd like you guys to do these two problems and then come back to me at the end and see if you got them correct. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and factor these. Again, multiplying the first and last together, we get 36x squared. We need to look at the factors of 36, so that would be 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, 6 and 6, okay? So again, because everything's positive, we're going to add these. So what we're trying to find is where is our sum of what? 12, right? That's what we're looking for. And that would be this one right here. So here again, we're going to put 4x in our parentheses. Remember, we're putting our coefficient with our x. And then we're going to put plus 6 and plus 6, right? So this is got a GCF of 2, as does this. So this is going to be 2x plus 3 and 2x plus 3. As with the one before, we could write this 2x plus 3 squared. All right, let's work our other one. So here again, we're going to multiply first and last, negative 40 w squared, okay? So we're looking at our factors of 40. It's got 1 and 40. Whoops, I wrote that too close. 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 4 and 10, 5 and 8, right? Okay, so this time our middle term, we know that one of these has to be negative because it's negative 40. Our middle term is positive, so we know our bigger number is going to be positive. So I'm going to put a plus here and a minus. A minus and a plus, sorry. Minus and plus, minus and plus, minus and plus. Okay, so we're looking for 6, right? So this would have been 39. This would have been 18. This would have been 6. Now I can stop right there. I don't even have to look at the rest of them because I know this is the one that gave me the 6, right? So here again, we're going to put our W and our W. And we're going to put minus 4 and plus 10. And remember, the way you can check these again is to use your box method to make sure that you got the correct answer. So here we want to talk about solving equations now. So when we're asked to solve an equation, that's a little bit different. So it says when polynomials are written as equations, we need to solve for the variable. These solutions can also be called values, solutions, roots, or zeros, okay? That's what the question is going to ask you to find, one of those 4 words, okay? And that's important because different questions are going to be expressed different ways. So it says in order to solve for a variable, we must use the zero product property, which says that if an equation is equal to 0, at least one of the factors must be 0, okay? So we got to make sure the equation is set equal to 0. That's our first thing. Then we're going to factor it. Then we're going to set each factor equal to 0 and solve. So we're going to do that right here on the next slide. So this first example is already factored for us. So all we have to do with these factors is set them equal to 0. So we're going to say x plus 4 equals 0. So obviously we're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So here x is equal to negative 4. Our other factor is x plus 2. So again, we're going to set that factor equal to 0. Subtract 2 from both sides, so x is equal to negative 2 here. Recall what these are. These are where the equation crosses the x-axis. That's what these are. So this next example is not factored for us, so we have to factor it first. Then we're going to set our factors equal to 0. So on this one, we got negative 30 x squared multiplying the first and last terms. Again, our factors of 30 are 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, 5 and 6. So this time it's negative 30. So one of those has to be negative, and our middle term here is positive. So we know our smaller term here is going to be negative, right? So then we're going to add. So the one we're looking for is 7. I noticed very quickly that this one is 7. So once again, we're going to put our x in both set of parentheses. And we're going to put negative 3 and plus 10. And remember, this is equal to 0, right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to set these equations equal to 0. So we got x minus 3 equals 0. So we're going to add 3 to both sides. So x is equal to 3. And then we got x plus 10 is equal to 0. I'm going to subtract 10 from both sides. So x is equal to negative 10. So those are the solutions, the roots, the zeros, the values. That's what they could be asking you for in this question, any one of those terms. Here's our next example. Okay, so this again, we're going to multiply first and last here. So that's going to be negative 72x squared. We got to find the factors of negative 72 that when added together give us a negative 8. Okay, so we know that one of them is going to be positive, one is going to be negative. So I'm going to do 1 and 72, 2 and 36, 3 and 12. Does 4 go in there? I think it does actually, y'all. So let me divide it. So I'm just going to divide 72. Clear, clear, clear. 72 divided by 4 is 8. So 18, sorry, and 18, 6 and 12. And then we've got 8 and 9. So the only one I didn't really know is the 4 and 18. So here again, one of these is going to be negative, one's going to be positive. And we know because this is negative that the bigger number is going to be negative this time. And the smaller number is going to be positive. So here again, we're looking for negative 1. I can look at the first 5 and determine that's not going to be the... So this is it, negative 1 right there. Y'all see it? Again, we got a negative 1 out in front of that x. So remember, again, we're going to bring down our coefficient with our x. Our coefficient with our x. So we're going to put plus 8 here and minus 9 here, okay? And remember, when we solve this problem, we're going to be setting this thing equal to 0, right? So here we can go ahead and simplify this now. Again, what is the GCF? It's 2. So this would be 3x plus 4. The GCF over here is 3. So this would be 2x minus 3 equals 0. Now we're going to set each of these equal to 0 and solve. So we've got 3x plus 4 equals 0. We're going to subtract 4 from both sides. So that's going to give us 3x equals negative 4. Then we're going to divide both sides by 3, right? So that's going to give us x equals negative 4/3. Then we're going to do the 2x minus 3 the same way. 2x minus 3 equals 0. Add 3 to both sides. So that gives us 2x equals 3. Then we're going to divide both sides by 2. So we get x equals 3/2. Again, those would be the zeros, values, roots, or solutions of the function. So now I'd like you guys to go ahead and try you tries 3 and 4, and I'm going to give you all a hint. There's a GCF in these. So go ahead and do that first. It's going to make the problems a lot easier. So go ahead and pause the video, work these 2 problems, and then come back to me when you're done. Okay, so with number 3, I see that all of them are divisible by 2. So I'm going to factor that out first. Now I'm going to factor it. It's going to make it a little easier. So this is going to be negative 36 m squared. Okay, again, we're looking at the factors of 36. So our factors of 36 are 1 and 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, right? Now this time, again, because it's negative, one of these has to be negative and one has to be positive. Because our middle term is positive, we know that the bigger term has to be positive. So we know that we're going to go minus plus here. And we're looking this time for a positive 5. Again, you could do all of these. This is 35. This is 16. This is 9. This one right here was a 5. So that's the one we were looking for. 5, 5. Okay, so here again, remember, we're going to do 3m here. We're going to leave this 2 on the outside. And we're going to do 3m here. And we're going to put our minus 4 and our plus 9 here. Recall, this is equal to 0, right? So now, the way we don't have to worry about this 2, because if we divide 2 out on both sides, we still get 0 over here, right? So we get 3m minus 4 equals 0. So that's going to be 3m equals 4, because we add 4 to both sides, and then divide both sides by 3, right? And that's going to give us m equals 4/3. Okay, then we've got, now we could simplify this, but we're going to get the same answer either way. So we could divide it by 3 here. That would give us m plus 3 equals 0. So m is equal to -3. But we could have left it as it was, because -9 divided by 3 is still -3. Okay, we've got one more to do. Now, I want you guys to understand that when I tell you to try to do the GCF first, there's a reason for that, because it makes the problems significantly easier because we have less factors. So if you notice, all of these are divisible by 2. So that's going to give me 12x squared plus x minus 20 equals 0. Again, going to multiply this. This is going to be negative 240x squared. Now listen, that is a big number to have to find the factors of. And so you can start writing out your factors, but I know that the factors have to be close together because we got a positive 1 here, right? So if I start looking at factors, I could go 24, 10 and 24, right? I could go 10 and 24, 10 and 24, right? And again, one of those is going to have to be negative, one's going to have to be positive. This one's going to be the positive, this one's going to be the negative. That would have got me -14, right? Or positive 14, sorry. So let's try 12. So if we put 12 into this, it would be 12 times 20, right? So -12 plus 20, that would have given us an 8. This would have given us a 14. So I'm going to keep going, and as I work through this, 13 didn't go into it, 14 did not go into it. Then I'm going to try 15. Okay, so I'm doing 15, and it was 16. Okay, so it was -15 plus 16. That was the one. So look, just trying to tell y'all, some of these are going to take you guys some time, okay, to figure out what the factors are. That's not fun, but it's reality. So here again, when we do this, we got our 2 out here. We got 12x. Remember, we're using our coefficient. 12x, and we're going to do -15 and plus 16. Again, remember, these are equal to 0. We could still divide out our 2 here. Still going to give us our 0, right? So we've got, now again, we can GCF this at this point, or we can just set them equal to 0 and solve it, but it's your call. Both of these are divisible by 3, so that would give us 4x minus 5. And here, both of these are divisible by 4, so that would give us 3x plus 4. We're going to set each of these equal to 0. So we got 4x minus 5 equals 0. Add 5 to both sides. 4x equals 5. Divide both sides by the 4, so x equals 5/4, right? Then we've got 3x plus 4 equals 0. Subtract 4 from both sides. That gives us 3x equals -4. Divide both sides by 3. X equals -4/3.